Very good morning everyone. I hope you all are safe and sound. I Jyoti welcome you all to RKP online classes, and in our today's video we will be studying about our unit 6 of our Behind book. The name of our unit 6 is My Childhood, and this is an extract from the novel Wings of Fire. It is an autobiography by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Now, why are autobiographies important? There are two words. One is biography, and the other one is autobiography. What is the difference between the two? Biography and autobiography. Now, you can understand this with this thing only, that Wings of Fire is a story of, the Wings of Fire tells us about the life of APJ Abdul Kalam, and it is written by Kalam himself. So it is an autobiography. Biography means something that explains the life of a person. It provides us the insight. And autobiography means it tells about the life of the writer. Someone who is writing, the life of that person will only be discussed in the autobiography. So the autobiography of APJ Abdul Kalam is Wings of Fire. In Wings of Fire, he has explained about each and every incident that is important of his life. And he has also mentioned about the people who were important in his life, or whom he came across during his lifetime. So My Childhood is extract of this autobiography. Extract means it is a part of the complete story. So My Childhood, as the title itself suggests, we will be talking about the childhood of APJ Abdul Kalam. Now, why are autobiographies important? Biographies or autobiographies, why they are important? They are important because they provide us first-hand insight. Means when we listen to someone, there are things that often gets missed, or there are things that get added up by itself. It's natural. Something gets missed, something gets added up. So in autobiography, one can have assurance that we will get everything to the point. So we are getting first-hand experience, or we are getting first-hand knowledge of that very thing. Here we are getting first-hand knowledge of the lifetime of APJ Abdul Kalam. Now the autobiographies tell us how some incidences helped in shaping the life of that person. Throughout his life, what were the experiences, what were the incidences, how that person dealt with that experiences, and they all together came to shape his life. Not only the incidences, but the people that we meet throughout our life, they help us in transforming us, they help us in changing us day by day. You will notice, if you want to know about this, just think of something. When you were in your previous class and when you are now, how you were yesterday and how you are now, there must be at least a slight difference in your behavior, in your knowledge, in your understanding. Things get added up day by day. So here in this chapter, we will see the life of APJ Abdul Kalam. So everyone, open your books at page number 68. I hope you are ready with your books and pencil in your hand so that you can do the markings in the chapter. So we have, before you read, can you think of any scientists who have also been statesmen? Now the very first question is asking us, have you ever known any scientist who had also been a political leader? APJ Abdul Kalam, he was not only a scientist, but he was also a political leader. APJ Abdul Kalam, whose projects in space, defense and nuclear technology guided India into the 21st century, became our 11th president in 2002. So we get the info that APJ Abdul Kalam was our 11th president and he was elected in 2002. In his autobiography, Wings of Fire, he speaks of his childhood. So in his autobiography, we are also given the info about his childhood. So let's start with first paragraph. On page number 68, we have, I was born into a middle class Tamil family in the island town of Rameshwaram in the erstwhile Madras state. Now the writer is telling us, who is the writer? APJ Abdul Kalam. He is telling us that he was born in an island town. Island is a place that is surrounded by water on all four sides. And the name of his town was Madras. Earlier it was called Madras. My father Jalaluddin had neither much formal education nor much wealth. Despite these disadvantages, he possessed great innate wisdom and a true generosity of spirit. Now here we get a phrase, generosity of spirit. Now he is telling us that his father was not that highly educated, nor they possessed materialistic wealth, but they had wealth that was earned by them because of their behavior. Clear? So he is telling us that his father had a generous behavior. What does generosity of spirit means? When we offer someone help, it so happens that we naturally happen to expect something in return. If nothing more in terms of materialistic help, but we all happen to expect that whenever we will be needing some help, that person will come forward to help us on his own without our asking us for help. But father of APJ Abdul Kalam had a nature that he never thought of anything before offering help to someone. Even if a stranger comes to him and asks for help, he will, without knowing the reality of that person, offer him help. That was his generous attitude. He had an ideal helpmate in my mother Ashima. I do not recall the exact number of people she fed every day, but I am quite certain that far more outsiders ate with us than all the members of our own family put together. Now he is telling us that his mother was an ideal partner for his father. She helped him in every possible way. She never asked his father not to help strangers, not to stop helping others and collect or accumulate wealth for their own family. Rather, she used to feed many more people than the total number of the family. What does that mean? That means that if suppose there are 8 members in the family, total people that used to have food at their family at the dinner time or breakfast or lunch time was 17. Means more than the half. 8 and 8 more, that would be 16, but they are 70. Means more than total number of the family. There were strangers who used to have food at their place. I was one of many children, a short boy with rather undistinguished looks, born to tall and handsome parents. Now he is telling us there were many children in the family and he was one of them. And he was not mean, means he didn't had some he is saying that he was not that handsome. If compared to others, he was not at all handsome. He didn't had any distinguished looks as for the shape of his face or the color. And he is telling that his parents were tall and handsome. Both the parents were having good looks. We lived in our ancestral house, which was built in the middle of the 19th century. It was a fairly large pakka house made of limestone and brick on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. Now he is telling us that they used to live in ancestral house. Ancestral house means house that belongs to our forefathers. And he is also telling us that the house was built in the mid-19th century. And it was a pakka house, and the location of the house was that it was located on the Mosque Street of Rameshwaram. The landmark of the house is Mosque Street. My foster father used to avoid all inessential comforts and luxuries. Now he is saying that my father never thought of accumulating luxuries. He used to avoid keeping luxuries at home. his father was so simple that he didn't like luxuries. However, all necessities were provided for in terms of food, medicine or clothes. Now he is telling this, APJ Abdul Kalam is telling us that though luxuries were not there at his place, but they never felt shortage of anything in terms of clothes, medicine or food. In fact, I would say mine was a very secure childhood, both materially and emotionally. Now he is telling us that his childhood was very secure. What does a child need? He just needs his requirements should be fulfilled. That are food, clothes and medicine. They should be fulfilled and he should get good companions in terms of friends. So he is saying that materially, in terms of food, clothes and medicine, he got everything, and emotionally, in terms of support, he got it from his father and mother. Now coming to page number 69, on page number 3, paragraph number 3, we have Second World War broke out in 1939 when I was 8 years old for reasons I have never been able to understand. A sudden demand for tamarind seeds erupted in the market. Now he is telling that suddenly in 1939, Second World War was announced, and he never, at that time, he was not aware of the reasons why it broke out. And he was not also able to understand why there was a hike in the production or in the demand of tamarind seeds. Now what are tamarind seeds? Tamarind means imli, that you say imli. Everyone must have tasted imli. So tamarind seeds, what are they used for? Tamarind is used in making medicine. Traditional medicine that we used to have, that used to be made from herbs, medicinal herbs. In them tamarind was important. Also, tamarind is important in polishing metal. Why is metal important at that time? Because World War was there and weapons were made of metal. So in that case, tamarind was required for medicine, as there will be victims of war, the people will be wounded, they will have to be treated by the doctors, so they will need medicine. So in that case, tamarind seeds were needed and metals were also to be polished to keep them sharp. So tamarind seeds were in demand in the market. I used to collect seeds and sell them to a provision shop on Mosque Street. Now Kalam is telling us that in his childhood he used to collect seeds and sell them at any shop. A day's collection would fetch me the princely sum of one, and now he is ironically telling that it was huge amount for him. Though now at present time, if we consider 1 anna is nothing at all. Even 1 rupee is not having any worth at present time. So he is telling that at that time he was able to secure 1 anna in return of selling tamarind seeds to any shopkeeper. My brother-in-law Jalaluddin would tell me stories about the war which I would later attempt to trace in the headlines in Dinamani. Now, who is brother-in-law? Brother-in-law is husband of your sister. So he is telling that his brother-in-law would tell him stories. He used to narrate him stories, and those stories he used to trace, means he used to find in the headlines of any newspaper. Our area being isolated means it was debarred from other, means connection was broken from other places. Was completely unaffected by the war. Why was it separated? Because it was an island town. Water was surrounded on all 4 sides, so there was no physical connection with the other cities or towns or the states of India. Next we have, but soon, so he is saying that we could not see any such visible changes due to war on our town. But soon India was forced to join the Allied forces and something like a state of emergency was declared. Now he is saying that though it was not visible, but it was not much time has not passed that when it was declared that India had also to participate in the war, and an emergency was declared. Emergency means the country is under danger. So in that case, emergency is announced. So he's saying that emergency was announced at that time also. The first casualty came in form of the suspension of the train halt at Rameshwaram station. Now he is saying that first change that he noticed or other persons noticed at Rameshwaram was that the train was halted. There were no trains that were running on the destined routes. The newspaper now had to be bundled and thrown out from the moving train on the Rameshwaram road between Rameshwaram and Dana Sukhedi. Now he is saying that now as the train doesn't stop at the Rameshwaram station, so the newspapers that used to be carried in the trains, they were thrown from the moving train. The train was halted. That means that the station at that time, means we often have time that at this station train will stop for 5 minutes, at that station it will stop for half an hour if it is a big city. So he is saying that the station time that we had for our city was halted. The train was not allowed to stop there, so newspapers were thrown from the windows. That forced my cousin Samsuddin, who distributed newspapers in Rameshwaram, to look for a helping hand to catch bundles, and as if naturally I filled the slot. Now he is saying that his cousin, he used to distribute newspapers in Rameshwaram. Now as they were thrown from the moving train, they need to be catched. If they will not catch it, they will be thrown on the floor and they will become dirty. So he is saying that the bundles need to be catched, and for that he was needing a helping hand. So I offered him one. Samsuddin helped me earn my first wages. Now he was offered wages. He was given money in return of the help. Half a century later, I can still feel the surge of pride in earning my own money for the first time. It often happens. You may try it again. Whenever you earn your first income on your own, without any help, by your own hard work, when you earn some income, that really gives you pride, that gives you worth. It makes you feel important, that you can do this, you can earn a living on your own. So he is saying that the same pride was felt by APJ Abdul Kalam when he helped his cousin in catching the bundles of newspapers, and he was given money in return of his help. Next we have paragraph number 4. Every child is born with some inherited characteristics into a specific socio-economic and emotional environment and trained in certain ways. By figures of authority, I inherited honesty and self-discipline from my father. From my mother, I inherited faith in goodness and deep kindness, and so did my 3 brothers and sister. Now he is telling that you all have studied Bible. Everyone knows that we have same DNA as our fathers, and genes get transferred from parent to the child. As the genes get transferred, there are some qualities that gets transferred to us. They can belong to our ancestors or to our mother or father. So he is saying that what does he inherit? What had he inherited? He is saying that he had inherited honesty and self-discipline from his father. Now what is self-discipline? Discipline, all of you know, you have to, like in school, you have to sit properly, you don't have to talk, you have to walk in a single line, you have to maintain the decorum of this class as well as the school. But what does self-discipline means? Now, when teacher is not there in your class, you all start making noise. You don't maintain discipline because there is no one to tell you. No one to tell you to do so. So there you lack in self-discipline. Self-discipline means you will follow the rules. You will follow the set of guidelines that are told to you. Even if there is no one to watch you. Even if there is no teacher in your class, you are supposed to be quiet on your own. Not because the monitor has told you or some other teacher has come to tell you about it. You have to be quiet on your own. Even if the teacher is not asking you homework, she is not asking you that, show me your notebook for checking. You have to complete your notebook on time by yourself, not because the teacher is asking you. That is self-discipline. So he's saying that he inherited honesty and self-discipline from his father, and from his mother he inherited faith and goodness. Means there is at least a pinch of goodness in each and every human being, and deep kindness. And so did my 3 brothers and sisters. And he was kind also. He was generous in behavior. And not only he, but his 4 siblings were of the same nature. I had 3 close friends in my childhood: Ramananda Shastri, Arvindanam, and Shiv Prakashan. Now he is telling his name of his 3 close friends. All these boys were from Orthodox Hindu Brahmin families. Orthodox means a family that follows strict rules of Hinduism. Yeah, Orthodox Hindu family. They are not liberal. They will not excuse you if you are not following the rules. They will not change themselves just for the sake of others. Next we have, as children, none of us ever felt any difference amongst ourselves because of our religious differences and upbringings. Now he is telling us that as a child, he had never noticed any change in the upbringing. Like he used to be loved by his family members, his friends were also loved by their family members. In fact, Ramananda Shastri was son of Pakshi Lakshman Shastri and the high priest of the Rameshwaran temple. His friend was son of a high priest. Later he took over the priesthood of Rameshwaran temple, and after his father he took that place as a priest. Arvindan went into the business of arranging transports for visiting pilgrims. Now his another friend, his second friend, took to arranging transport. Means he had a business of arranging transport for the tourists. And Shiva Prakashan became a catering contractor for the Southern Railways. And his third friend, he became a contractor for Southern Railways. Contractor means there are often contracts that are assigned, that are announced, and the best used to get the contract. Contract had some set of rules that are to be fulfilled, some guidelines that are to be taken care of, and it has a limit. So after that limit, that contract gets cancelled and you have to again win that contract. So his third friend used to win contract for Southern Railway.